I'd say last year, I kind of have working on exploring these particular aspects. So first, historical context of fashion and sustainability, zero-waste fashion design approaches, creativity in fashion design and pattern cutting, and also current fashion design and pattern cutting education in relation to zero-waste designs. So also, the next step would be for me to be evaluating current teaching methods on the fashion design courses, especially at London College of Fashion, where I am teaching, and also doing my PhD. And also within zero-waste fashion design workshops to measure creativity and sustainability in order to incorporate the interventions into courses to develop students' creativity and especially in discipline of pattern cutting. And my particular area of interest in design process is the pre-consumer waste. So you see in this illustration that the garment's life starts from the raw material extraction, making a long journey to industrial ecosystems and before actually reaching the final consumer. So the final consumer is a passive receiver who becomes only active after they purchase and start using the garment. So final disposal is put on consumer shoulders, and we heard also lots of talks about consumer and how the consumer needs to be responsible today in a panel. While companies remain responsible only for the design and production of products. 80% of products' environmental impact is determined at the design stage. And recent in 2005 suggests that instead of making a number of sketches relatively fast, the designer needs to incorporate pattern making into the design process of a garment. Such an approach merges the roles of pattern cutter and the design. And I have a good example, maybe if you designers, you know the subtraction cutting created by Julian Roberts. And it shows as a kind of example of approach that designing through the patterns. But this example represents the standard pattern cutting processes used in the industry today. The patterns can be drafted in 2 dimensions from a sketch or technical drawing or using specialized software such as Gerber, Lectra, and 3D Flow. Afterwards, the pattern pieces are carefully positioned on a fabric and professionally cut out. Garments are no longer cut one by one in industry today. Their cutting machines are highly advanced, allowing for precise cutting of fabric layers according to the pattern. The process can handle up to 150 layers of fabric at once. Once the shaped pattern pieces are cut out, there are leftover fabric waste that cannot be recycled due to the intricate shapes and the different fiber content. And we also heard about different fibers, the innovations going, you know, really great in terms of fibers, but actually we have lots of fibers where it's still really, you know, in terms of polyester fabrics, who can take 200 years to compose in a landfill. So a majority of waste goes obviously to landfills. And like I mentioned before, that most textiles do not decompose. Some natural materials do, but often too slowly also. And the problem is that they are not planned to be suitable for composting. Fibers include many toxic chemicals, colors, and finishings. And most of the fabrics are made from different fibers and suitable for composting. So basically they have combination of some synthetic, some natural. So it's really difficult for composting. And composting is also problematic from an environmental viewpoint as it produces a lot of methane, which contributes to greater greenhouse gas emissions and global warming. So an analysis of material and labor invested in textiles combined with their negative environmental effects demonstrate that these investments are wasted. Then the fabric is wasted. So even before the garment is created, there's ample waste of fabric and resources. However, that was not always the case for the fashion industry, and we can improve current issues by learning from past knowledge and tradition. Before the Industrial Revolution, when resources were limited and making textiles required a lot of work, fabric was very valuable. The cutting process was done with a strong focus on making as little waste as possible, which made the entire operation of the process really waste efficient, and which made so this was very case of a development of a garment cut throughout history, reducing of fabric waste because it kind of creatively incorporated in design that would fit the human body, climate, geographical location, social status, and the concept of modesty. So there's much wisdom to be gained from the old sources, and I included some examples. So this is how the design and pattern making was done before. The utilization of fabric in its raw state was very important to prehistoric people who were careful not to waste any precious material after weaving it. And the fabric was skillfully taken off the loom and basically ensure it remains intact. And we see the peplos, himation, chiton in ancient Greece, made from a single piece of draped cloth. And to the toga worn by people in ancient Rome, and Indian sari, dhoti lungi, it was made from long piece of cloth that is wrapped around the body and hangs loosely from the shoulders. Also, you can see a traditional Japanese kimono. All pieces were woven in rectangular shapes, so no waste created. Rectangular and cut pieces were used to fashion garments so as to minimize waste. Then pattern making began in the 15th century. It saw the start of new age of engineered pieces of fabric that were cut to fit the body's shape. And you can see in this example, while this new division in clothing generated more scope for designs, it, on the other hand, produced a detrimental consequence where fabric took a back seat. Sorry? Excuse me? During the Industrial Revolution, the weaving industry was mechanized, leading to an increased supply of raw materials. I thought I had like 15 minutes of presentation. Okay, sorry, yeah. Yeah, because like I have email, let's say 15 minutes and then 20 minutes. Okay, thank you. So as a result of development, technological developments, the prices of fabric decreased and making waste-free production less important. So as a result, the fashion industry has generated significant waste of valuable material over the past 2 centuries. And so what we see here, the traditional pattern cutting, which views garment pattern pieces as irregular shapes that cannot be assembled like a jigsaw puzzle. As a result, it's enabled to fully utilize the length and width of the fabric spread. Also, underneath you have zero waste design, which is no fabric is wasted, so they cut with efficient fabrics used. And I briefly just show you zero waste designs. So first, let's look at Epoch single tube clothing line by Issei Miyake. So Epoch stands for a piece of cloth, and a consumer may customize the length of the skirt, sleeves, and neckline by cutting out the garment using printed cutting instructions. Then I have tessellation. The patterns are repeated on a fabric in a decreased order like fractals. Then pieces are cut and manipulated into a design. Then I have creative cut. So this illustrates zero waste design. We're using typography, and you can see risk dress. Then I have embedded jigsaw. Designing pattern like puzzle pieces, and design is embedded within the length of a fabric, and free zero waste patterns, which explore the possibilities of embedding multiple garments in one pattern. And then I have jigsaw. Designers can build the design around a specific shape, like a sleeve. Pieces are manipulated to interlock with each other and share the same cutting edge. And then I have minimal cut. Design is based on draping and allowing for minimal cuts in the fabric. Then the last one, folding and origami. So this figure showcase also zero waste design, but using origami method. So this is very briefly, and there's so many other techniques, but let's look at quickly current fashion design pattern cutting education. So the information presented clearly highlights the importance of incorporating zero waste fashion design pattern cutting into mainstream fashion courses. At the moment, this method of pattern cutting offered as a short courses, so not embedded in a mainstream fashion design education. I really want or trying to create intervention. So creating the exercise where looking at origami and embedded jigsaw or tessellation method. So because I think to study design is to strive to make the world a better place and shape the future, focusing on creating meaningful solutions rather than just products. And problem solving requires a high level of creativity. And this, the problem solving and all this zero waste design exercise, looking at how to create patterns and how to create clothes without any waste is enhancing the creativity. And I would, my next step would be to create these interventions and measure. So I would use, thank you. I would use control and experimental group, and then measure. I have creativity tests and measure before interventions and then after interventions. So I want to measure, I want to be sure that these interventions, what I created, enhance creativity plus enhance sustainability. I think in the panel says creativity, sustainability goes together. And thank you so much for listening to me.